All right, everybody, welcome back to the Friday Society. I can't even explain how thrilled I am to tell you who I'm sitting with. I am sitting with Angela Manuel-Davis. Angela, the fact that we are sitting down right now is an absolute dream to me. First and foremost,
Thank you.
welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, let's get right into it because a very quick Google search turns up things like LA's most inspiring fitness instructor. You have been praised by Beyoncé, Oprah, you're in Hollywood movies. I mean, I think everybody knows who you are, but do you want to quickly introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about how you spent your day so far?
I am Angela Davis. I live in Los Angeles, California. I am the Chief Motivational Officer for AARMY. I'm a co-founder at AARMY with Trey Lard and Akin Ackman. And I am a cycling coach. People like to call me a fitness evangelist, but I am someone that really just takes the vehicle of moving our body and use that vehicle to inspire people to live the life that they were called, created, and intended to live. And it has been really one of the privileges of my lifetime to get to do that. Thus far today, let's think about it. So it is 2:30 in LA. Got my son Lorenzo to his 8 a.m. Tutor, and he does that from 8 to 10. And then I picked him back up at 10 and took him to school. And then after I dropped him off at school, I went to Trader Joe's and grocery shopped. And in preparation got home, put the groceries away. And then in preparation for this podcast, I had my coffee and waited a little bit later today to have that coffee. Just so, for whatever reason, coffee just does something to my brain. And so it just opens me up a little bit. And so I waited to have my coffee, and I just finished my coffee and putting away groceries.
I love it. All right. So Chief Motivational Officer for AARMY is major, and I definitely want to get there. We're going to talk about AARMY, but let's go back to fitness for you and sports from a very young age. Where did it all start? Like, when did you start really taking fitness seriously?
Well, ever since I can remember, like being a little girl, I was athletic and I was into sports. My father was drafted out of high school and played professional baseball all of my childhood. And so as the oldest of four, we were all athletes, actually. My dad was, Hall of Famer, had over 220 full rides scholarships out of high school, but decided to sign a professional baseball contract and literally left high school and started playing professional baseball. My mom and dad were in high school together. They're high school sweethearts. They're still married to this day. And my mom was a cheerleader. I'm, like I said, the oldest of four, and all of us are athletes or were athletes in some form or fashion. And for me, running was one of my first loves. And it wasn't really until middle school that a boy could beat me. I was always the fastest.
Wow.
And so it was in 7th grade that a boy could finally beat me.
Oh my God.
And I ran track all the way through high school and also played soccer. I played soccer for 13 years and had 51 goals my junior year in high school, and really thought that I was potentially going to, take a soccer scholarship, but decided to take a track and field scholarship. and went to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and ran Division I track, was an All-American. After graduating college, continued to run professionally, and at one point was ranked in the top 25 in the world at 100 meters, and Olympic semifinalist at the Olympic trials. I was an Olympic trials semifinalist, and was hundredths of a second away from making the Olympic team, but did not make the team. And to be honest with you, I really feel like it was that heartbreak that really prepared me to be the coach that I am today.
Hmm. What about it? Just the grief of training for something and not getting it?
Yeah, I think grief is a great word to describe it. It was devastating. Like, it was devastating. And when you train so long and so hard, and you've had a dream for so long, and you get that close. I mean, literally, if I'd have run the same race that I'd run the day before in the prelims, if I'd run that same exact race the next day in the semis, I'd have made the Olympic team. So it's not a matter of, you know, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't fast enough. It was, I didn't do what it took in that one particular moment.
Wow.
And that's hard to process. That's
Yeah.
actually really, really mentally challenging to process and emotionally challenging to process. And that's life. You know, life shows up, and there's stuff that happens that it's hard to process. It's hard to fathom. You know, there's heartbreak and heartache and loss and death and devastation and setbacks and pandemics, and there's things that we have a really hard time wrapping our head around, and life does happen. But I truly believe that it's not happening to us but for us. And
Mhm.
so, what about getting that close to your dream and not making it? um, what about that can you use to be a good coach? Everything. You
Yeah.
know, I'm
Yeah.
still here. It didn't kill me, you know. I The lessons that I was able to learn, the principles that I was really able to make mine, um there was so much of it that I think just the heart and the grit and the blood and the sweat and the tears is just who we are as humans, that are able to overcome. And um and I think really not making the Olympic team, there were so many tools that I got to fill my toolbox with from that.
I was gonna say, what got you through, those next like 6 months?
Uh, the next 6 months after not making it. Wow, that's a good question. And oh man, I mean, this was over 20 years ago for me.
Yeah.
I'm aging myself. Wow. I think you I think you you have to mourn the loss properly. Like, it wasn't anything that for me, this was just my own personal experience. It wasn't anything for me that I could just push down and act like it didn't happen. Like, I actually had to mourn the loss, and I had to let the sting and the hurt touch me. I couldn't rush past it. Like, I had to let it sit on me, and I had to process it, and I had to work through it. I had to emotionally and mentally and physically work through it. Physically working through it meant that eventually I got back on the track again, because
Yeah.
there is a moment where you feel like I'm done,
Yeah.
like I'm not even going to get back on the track again. You're so heartbroken. And actually, um, that particular Olympic trials, there was a distance runner that took his own life when he didn't make it. and it was like all over, and it was like really hard for our community. So it's such a devastating, like, it's devastating when you just like you're working so hard for something and to come so close. Like, it's one thing to, not necessarily one thing, because I can't say for certain that
Yeah.
it would be easier to process if you were far away from it.
Mm.
But what I can speak for personally is being that close
Mm.
is
Mm.
devastating, because you just replay it, and it almost tries to like torment you, because you
Yeah.
just like, and for me, I had a bad start.
Yeah.
I didn't get out of the blocks good. And I should have raised my hand and asked the official to, like, for us to get back up out of the blocks and then go back down again. And I didn't. I didn't. And, so you beat yourself up. And so you have to mourn that.
Yeah.
And then once you mourn it and you process it, and it touches you and does what it needs to do and in through you, then you can use it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can use it and like be helpful. Then you can use that to make a difference in the world. Then you can use that experience and you can share it and you can speak about it. And, I think, our tests are what become our testimony. And that was a test for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a test. And I refuse to let it die with me and me just keep it to myself. But I made a conscious decision to take it and use it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, as a coach today, what I always say, and maybe some of the listeners have heard me say it before, but I think one of the most beautiful cyclical uh, you know, opportunities we have is to take what's been given to us and give it back to the world, and take the gifts and talents and everything given to us and give it back.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll never know the ripple effect of our life. Like, we'll never know, you may have smiled at someone today or said hello to someone today, and you'll never know the ripple effect of your actions and your choices and the things you do. And I can sit here now and say that the gift of not making the Olympic team has a ripple effect beyond what I could imagine, because it has been the fuel to what I do.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful thing,
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the journey then from that moment to SoulCycle? Like, how did that happen?
Well, that was a lot of years later. I mean, SoulCycle was after I had kids. So the
wow.
Olympic trials was, before, my husband, Jerome. It was before, our kids. Like, that was a while ago. So, SoulCycle came about after I had both of my children. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. And SoulCycle came about from another, it was a spin and yoga studio. So I taught yoga and I taught spin. It was a spin and yoga studio, and it was like in walking distance from my house downtown LA. And I started there, and it was from that actually the founders of SoulCycle found myself. And there was a handful of us that were actually found in Los Angeles, and we opened, at that point there was no SoulCycle anywhere but in New York, and we opened the first location outside of New York, in West Hollywood.
Wow. What year was that?
Oh my gosh. Was it
2008 or 9, probably?
Probably. I don't even know. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's a while ago.
So you're opening SoulCycle. What was
Yep.
that like
In LA. It was already in New York.
Right.
And
Tell me about, because I know that Julie, like, was in New York and really wanted to bring it to LA. And what was what was that like when you were at Soul and just watching it kind of take off and change, the boutique fitness industry? Like, what was it like being at the forefront of that?
it was pretty dope. Like those were, formative years for me, and like just a really important time. It was definitely preparing me to own my own business,
Hmm.
unbeknownst to me, just really. And that's really what I encourage anyone listening, whether you are a owner or whether you are an employee, just that ability to make it yours. And I think I took my schedule, I took every time slot that I had, and I made it mine. And I made sure that I gave it my all. Like, I was never the one that dialed it in. I left it all on the floor. I left it all in the room, and I went hard.
Hmm.
And and really took the time to build relationships and to really make it mine. Here I had this platform with Soul, and I was grateful for it. But I also felt like with that platform came a responsibility. And I took that very seriously. And I
Hmm.
took it, I took my responsibility, like it mattered to me. It actually really, really mattered to me to build this community and not just say one thing in the room that doesn't represent how you live outside of the room. And
Hmm.
that connection and that connectivity to me was really foundational
Yeah.
on, building my reputation and building what an experience in my room was known for.
Hmm. Yeah. When did all the celebrity recognition and all of the accolades start coming? And what was that like for you?
I mean, I don't think it's uncommon because I am in LA. So I think for so many uh so many of us in the fitness industry, you have that experience where you do have celebrity attendees. So I don't think that part was special to me, you know. um I think what happened was there became a some really bigger celebrities that made it part of their life. And I think when we all connected and really intentionally decided, wow, we are doing the work, and we are choosing each other to do the work with.
Mhm.
um I kind of think that that's when it became a thing, because we were literally like committed um to doing the good work, and that work was more than just the room. Like,
Mhm.
we were literally like scheming on how to make the world better.
Mhm.
So it just it there was a different intention behind it. And not that everyone doesn't have um that experience, but just with me particularly, it felt like there was a number of us that rallied together and really were trying to push the envelope,
Mhm.
even outside of the room. And I think that's what got notoriety and became very interesting. And I think obviously going on tour with Oprah was a big deal. And hosting her 60th birthday, a private ride for her 60th birthday, I think that was a really also a big moment for me. With different eyes
Yeah.
on me when something like that happens. That was a huge moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. All right. So, I mean, I feel like I could just sit and talk to you all day. But, like, I'm like, please tell me more. Let's talk. So Akin is also an amazing was an amazing SoulCycle instructor, and you are now in this venture of AARMY.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
amazing. So kind of a two-sided question, but how did the idea for AARMY come about? And when did you know that it was time to put the bow on SoulCycle and let it go?
Well, Akin was already doing Akin's AARMY. Like he was already doing that like years, like for years and years and years. And we were at Soul together. He was in New York, I was in LA, and we just always had this mutual love and admiration for each other and just this really deep respect for each other, and have always been friends with his sister. And we would jump in each other, like make sure we saw each other if we were in each other's neck of the woods. And not planned, but we were both leaving Soul at the same time. Not planned at all. And it was when we individually had made that decision. We had made that decision separately, that we realized it. And it was really him, it was really him. He was just like, let's do this together. And for me, I was like, I just felt like, but you're already kind of doing it, and it's, Atkins AARMY, and like, and, I had a couple meetings with him and Trey, because literally I was already looking at spaces of my own, and I had my whole team, my own team, my AMD team, and we were looking for spaces, and, we're super excited, and like we were moving, and they were moving, in their direction. We were moving in our direction. And, we had a couple meetings, and we were really able to hash it out and make it make sense, and make it merge together. And that was like insane. We were like, oh my gosh, all right, let's go.
Oh my God. So
Let's go.
This was like 2018, 2019, right?
Yep.
So when AARMY opened at it's 526 Broadway, right, in Soho,
Yep.
was the plan to always be in person?
636.
636. Was the plan to also do the digital component, or was that pushed forward by COVID?
That was always the main, that was the whole business model. The entire business model was a digital, our app and a digital presence. We individually shared the same conviction of knowing that we needed to reach more people than can fit in our room. Like we knew that separately. Yeah. And so collectively, when we decided to come together, that was always the intention, was to have a digital business. COVID just fast forwarded. Like it was just, it like pushed it through, and just made it, maybe something that would have been a couple years away became the thing right away.
Yeah.
So that was how that rolled.
Yeah. All right. So last question before we get into rapid fire.
Okay.
As Chief Motivational Officer, tell me what your days look like. What is that job description? Because it just is the most amazing thing. And where do you go from there? Like, how do you even, how do you get promoted from that?
Here's the thing, like we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but for me, it is for every person in the entire world. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard me say this, but we were all created in purpose, on purpose, for a purpose. Every single one of us was created and designed for a purpose. And a lot of times it takes a while to really discover that, to unwrap that. And for me, it is about getting individuals strong enough in their mind and their body, like I said earlier, to live the life they were created to live.
Mhm.
And for me, motivating and coaching someone to that is
Mhm.
everything. I know as a former professional athlete, what what made the difference for a lot of us when you got to a certain level, it wasn't that we weren't talented or one was extremely more talented than the other. It was it was the coaching, and it was what did we do prior to that moment? Like what how did we build up to our success? What was the foundation that we put in place?
Mhm.
And a lot of that comes from your coach.
Mhm.
And motivation is just literally moving someone from one place to another. And the reason why we call ourselves coaches and not instructors is a coach is someone that can reach in and grab your greatness and say, here it is. You know, an instructor is someone that can give cues and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We are coaches, and so it's a different level. And so we knew that we had to graduate in a sense and really be able to motivate and move people with
Mhm.
what we say, because our words, like there's a scripture that talks about life and death is in the power of the tongue. It's in your words. And you know, you are who you think you are, and you are who you say you are. And so those things are so important. So motivation is really words, and
Mhm.
it's being able to craft words, and it's being able to put words together in a way that feel tangible, in a way that can move you from one place to another, in a way that they feel like they're yours. You know, I remember my coach getting me to a place where I felt like I could run through a brick wall. I
Mhm.
remember my coach getting me to a place where, you know, here I am on the line at the Olympic trials, feeling like, as I'm running next to, at that time, the fastest woman in the world who had the world record in 100 meters, I still believe that I could win, you know? So like all of that is part of it. And so a chief motivational officer, for me, it's really getting my team to understand the power of their words and us really work together collectively to figure out how to pull greatness out of our athletes. You
Mhm.
know, so what are we reading? How are we holding each other accountable? What are we listening to?
Mhm.
What kind of self work are we doing? You know, there's a lot that goes into being a whole person and a whole coach, so that we can give wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
So I know that's a long-winded answer, but
It's a great answer though, and it actually is a great segue into the first rapid fire question, which is, what is the one song that you can always throw on a playlist that gets you just absolutely hyped?
clarity, Zed.
Mm,
I
awesome.
mean, it's just like the ultimate to me, like finisher. Like it's always, and it's been around for so long,
Yeah.
but I don't know why for me it's never played out. I don't know
Love
why. It's
that.
just
I
not played.
love it. What is the best business advice that you ever got?
I remember when I was running and I was training for the Olympics, and I was in I don't even remember. Oh, I was in St. Louis, and I was racing. I was running the 100 meters, and there's an Olympian named Gail Devers. She ran the 100 meters and the hurdles. And we were downstairs in the bathroom, and she was in line in front of me, and it was a long line, and we were just sitting there chatting. And I was really frustrated because I wasn't really putting my race together, and my race just didn't feel good yet. And she looked at me and she said, Angela, she said, don't worry. Um, you're going to get your time to shine. You're going to put your race is going to, you know, you're going to put your race together. She said, but when that time comes, be ready. And I was like, man, you know, like it's like that whole saying, you know, about what's that saying about like you don't have to get ready, something, be ready. I don't know. But it was just like, yo, like I took that to heart. Like, we just need to be ready. Like, we
Yep.
don't know what life is going to throw at us. Like, we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. There is no guarantees in life. You know, there are people that did not wake up today. There are people that experienced something devastating today. We don't know, but
Mhm.
what fitness provides is an opportunity for us to make deposits. And it's those deposits that we withdraw on when we need courage, when we need faith, when we need to believe in ourselves, you know, when we need discipline, when we need focus. Like, we are given those opportunities day in and day out
Mhm.
in the fitness industry to make significant deposits that will allow us to be ready and stay ready when life shows up and things feel unexpected and uncertain. You know, there's a certainty and a confidence that you can have that whatever comes my way, like there's not one obstacle that I cannot overcome, that there is not one challenge that I cannot overcome, that there is a confidence that comes when you feel prepared and you feel ready. And why do you feel prepared and you feel ready? Because you took the time to do the work. You took the time to lay the foundation. You took the time to put it in when no one was watching.
Mhm.
And so that spoke to me.
Wow. Oh my God. I love that so much. Okay. Well, I want to honor our time, and this was amazing. Tell everybody how they can take your class and where they can connect with you next.
Thank you. AARMY, AARMY.com. You can download our app anywhere the apps are available, and you can train with us every day, all day. On the AARMY app, you will find cycle practices, you will find boot camp, you'll find stretch. I do a motivation Monday. And regardless, like if you don't have a bike, you can still enjoy, you know, our cycle practices, have them in your ear on the treadmill or lifting or going on a walk or taking a hike. It doesn't matter. They're full of energy and they're full of motivation and they're full of inspiration, and you'll find nuggets and things that hopefully you can deposit, and when needed for you, you can make the withdrawals necessary.
Amazing. Angela, thank you so much. This was such an honor.
Thank you for having me.